All right, I've got a suggestion here about the playoff game that you're going to be calling, Austin against LAFC, and it's a suggestion that was mocked on this show last time around. I suggested that LAFC would actually be huge, significant favorites over Austin. Herc said no way. He did his little high-pitched, whiny voice. They can roll the tape if they want, complaint about it. But the truth is, Vegas has it installed, John, at plus 490. Plus 490, Austin. I wonder what you make of those odds. And as somebody who has seen Austin beat LAFC this year, how did they do it then? And how do they replicate that if they are going to pull the upset?
Well, first of all, as I often am with MLS odds, I'm amazed at what's being offered on this game, particularly when you bear in mind what's happened so far this season. It makes no sense at all. In terms of what Austin have done, I think it's very significant that when the two sides played at Q2 towards the end of August, Ilie Sanchez didn't play for LAFC. And to me, that was huge. It's the only game that he's not been a part of in MLS this season. He was suspended, having been sent off in the previous match. And if you were to ask me, for all the glamour stars in the LAFC lineup, who the most important player week in, week out is, I'd probably say Ilie Sanchez. Because I think he's quiet, he's unfussy, but he's the metronome. He sets the tone of the team. He holds everything else around him together. He makes those around him look better. And he was missing on that occasion. And Austin ran riot. I think the previous game, it also concerned Ilie Sanchez. He had problems dealing with Sebastian because does he pick him up and follow him around the field? Does he hold his normal defensive midfield position centrally and let colleagues pick it up? I didn't think that LAFC really figured out how to deal with the particular talent of Driussi in that first game, and it cost them because Ilie Sanchez was sort of taken out of the game by trying to look after Driussi, and it just allowed others to run riot. And also the defence was not what it normally would be for LAFC in that game. I think they had Kellen Acosta playing at right back, and he was exposed by Diego Fagundes. So I think there were particular reasons, but tactically, I think, again, discomforting Ilie Sanchez will be high up on Austin's list for this one.
Herc?
I agree. Ilie Sanchez is a good piece of that element, but you're talking about a team in LAFC that just lost a game in the midfield battle. It's Kellen Acosta. At that time, it was Latif Blessing. They don't have the answers to deal with Alexander Ring. They don't have the answer to deal with Pereira. They don't have the transition defensively. You get a Chiellini on there who is a big name, but might lessen that team. It's some trouble. Diego Fagundes' record season was at 15 assists. Driussi is a contender here for MLS MVP. I just think transition-wise, it's too much for LAFC, especially a team that almost limped into that supporter shield. They lost 5 out of the last 9. Almost lost that to the LA Galaxy, if not for Wanga and that last second goal by Chicho Arango. We may be talking about a team that maybe lost all the momentum heading to the most crucial stretch of this MLS run.
John, to that point, it's not just Chiellini, right, that Herc mentions, but Gareth Bale as well. These were these big signings that were supposed to kind of put LAFC over the hump, make this truly a championship team. It doesn't seem like they've had that positive impact. Certainly when it comes to Bale, what kind of role do we expect for him against Austin? And what do you make of the role that he's played so far, or the role he hasn't really played so far for LAFC?
Well, I think it's been disappointing for all concerned, not least Bale, who wants fitness and wants minutes on the field ahead of the World Cup. I think his role will be bench at best this Sunday. I don't expect there to be any changes to the starting 11. I don't know that for sure. I'm not privy to that information, but I'd be very surprised if the starting 11 was disrupted by anything other than potential injuries that have not actually been publicly reported. So I think if I was Steve Cherundolo and John Thorrington had come to me midway through a season that was unfolding as successfully as it was in mid-July, and I'm told that you've got to assimilate Giorgio Chiellini and Gareth Bale into your squad and disappoint some other players along the way, I'd have had very mixed feelings about that. And I think Steve Cherundolo has kept stum and not betrayed what his feelings are. But I just get the impression that it was an unwelcome nuisance having to have these two superstar players being added to a mix that was already very successful and was purring along very nicely, because then you get into a situation where players that have served you well, you're suddenly telling them that this week they're not playing. You know, Mamadou Fall was a big part of the squad in the first half of the season. Yes, he's got a lot to learn, but Chiellini's arrival effectively hastened him being shipped out on loan, and that may, over the longer term, improve his development and hasten his development. But I just thought that it was a pretty nice camp at LAFC. They were playing some lovely football. Why fiddle with it? And I also look overall, I think they've used 30 players this season. Nearly a quarter of them have now left the club. Now, if you put that into a context in a different league, say to Nagelsmann at Bayern or to Klopp at Liverpool or Ten Hag at Manchester United, a quarter of your squad is going to disappear through the course of the season. You're inviting trouble because consistency is sought by managers and coaches throughout the world for a reason. And that's consistency of selection and consistency of squad. And that's been taken away, really, from Steve Cherundolo by all the chopping and changing. I absolutely accept that there are commercial reasons at play here as well. But I just think from a sporting perspective, there isn't going to be an upside to trying to bring in Chiellini and Bale at this stage, not into a team as successful as LAFC were at that point.
$10 million in the summer transfer window in salary you brought in. Players that you didn't need. John just mentioned the team was going along smoothly. You bring in these players, you disrupt the rhythm. Players like Kwadu Opoku, who was having a career year, all of a sudden have to take a back seat to players like Gareth Bale. Fall ends up leaving so Chiellini can have a place. Eddie Segura was coming back from injury, now has to wait behind Chiellini, an aging Chiellini. Players like Latif Blessing are now taking a back seat. You introduce Teo, you introduce Bouanga, Chicho Arango, who was a player that kept scoring goals. All of a sudden, every weekend, week out, had to keep proving himself just to be in this lineup. It almost seems like a headache that Steve Cherundolo should have never had to deal with, and a headache that disrupted the team chemistry down this stretch.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.